Hey everyone. For my screencast, I'm going to be looking at Volume 1 of Werid Horrors, published by the St. John Publishing Company in 1952. Unfortunately, this company is no longer with us. They stopped publishing comics in 1958, and then they stopped publishing magazines and were officially closed in 1967. Werid Horrors fell under the horror genre, and this volume of Werid Horrors has 6 different short stories in it, but I'm going to be focusing on the first story, titled The Vampire Fog. Unlike other comics, like crime comics, that say adult only is right on top, Werid Horrors does not state its intended audience, but with the amount of violence and horror aspects within the comic, it is clear that this comic book was intended for young male audiences who are interested in scary horror stories and graphic violence. The seduction of the innocent doesn't directly talk about this specific this specific comic book, but it talks about horror genre, and it specifically talks about a horror comic book called Nightmares, which I tried to find but couldn't find. The artists of The Vampire Fog are Bob Forgione and Albert Tyler. To summarize The Vampire Fog, it's a short story about a mysterious and deadly fog that hangs around the ocean to capture and mind control ship members of a ship, so the fog can use the ship's crew to find other ships to mind control and make a cycle out of that. The comic shows this happening to the first ship, the Vulcanus, in 1855, and then shows a mind-controlled member of the first ship, a doctor from that ship, trying to board another ship called the Norfolk and using the help of the Vampire Fog to take over the Norfolk. The first page that I want to focus on is the second page of the story, and I want to look at the middle panel of this page. This panel takes up the entire width of the page, and it depicts the Vulcanus sitting in open waters next to an overpowering, opaque, black fog, just showing like how big the fog is and how small the ship is compared to it. And then we also see a bird. The bird is clearly either escaping the fog because it knows what the fog can do, or it has just been killed by the fog and is about to fall in. Because it is a stilled image, we're not able to see what the bird's actually doing. It's just floating there. But I want to focus on the speech bubbles. On the far left side of the panel, we see another panel with text in it that acts as a narrator for the scene. This speech bubble looks like a paper posted on top of the other panel, the panel underneath it, so the reader can determine that it is disjointed from the rest of the scene, and it is a narrating device and is not dialogue like the other speech bubbles are. The other 3 speech bubbles right here, they are clearly speech bubbles connected to the scene. They are pointing at the ship. The reader does not know what character on the ship is speaking because we don't see specific characters. We just know that they are shouting on the ship, and it's up to the reader to determine, using context clues, to figure out who is talking. Next, I want to look at this page. This page shows the fight between the doctor from the Vulcanus, who is currently mind-controlled by the Vampire Fog, and the captain of the Norfolk, who's trying to stop the mind-controlled doctor from the Vulcanus. The panels are all very tall and thin, and the page is split into 2 halves, each half containing 3 panels. Eisner's book, The Comics in Sequential Art, tells us that the size of the panels matter, and we can tell from these panels that everything is happening very quickly. It is happening action by action. The first panel, we see the captain of the Norfolk being thrown literally over the shoulder of the doctor from the Vulcanus, and then in the panel after that, we see the captain of the Norfolk being cornered on the ground by the doctor from the Vulcanus. From the sequence, we can tell that time is going by really quickly. The rhythm and the beat are very fast. This is a very heated moment, and then just as suddenly and quickly as everything is happening, the captain of the Norfolk throws a lantern at the doctor from the Vulcanus, and everything stops. It's all very fast-paced, very stick. And then the image that I want to end on, I'll actually zoom in a bit, are this image, specifically the last one, but I guess both of these are good images for this. The dialogue in both of these panels show that the crew members and the captain both don't know what was controlling the fog, what the intentions of the fog was, and what the fog wanted to do with the crew members once they were mind controlled. But we do know that everything's back to normal, the ship is safe, done for now, and it shows to the reader that everything will be alright in the end. Thank you.